Hello and welcome again to Spotlights, an independent talk show live from Oslo. Tonight we have three guests with us. The first one is Hanne Dieserud. She is an actress in the theater Cruelty in Oslo. And we have Thorkell Ottarsson. He has a bachelor in theology and film theory and is working in his second movie. And we have with us Slade, that is a future filmmaker. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, yes, I started with Hanne. At the time you are working in one play of Edvard Alve.
Who is afraid of
Virginia Woolf, thank you. And you are playing a character that is or has some problem with alcohol. How is this process? That working or coming into the life of these kind of characters?
Actually, it's quite easy from Edvard Albe's side when it comes to, I mean, in the opening, when Martha has her entrance, she's already drunk. So I have the whole play to be drunk and the whole rehearsal time, 8 weeks to be drunk. So I had to find how to be drunk in my body and how it affected the speech and also the way of thinking. So it's a very physical experience, much more than analytical, or I have not researched it, or I mean, except for being a mature woman.
Yeah. What about you, Thorkell? Because we said that the thing we were talking about today, it's about relationship with alcohol, and where is your approach to this theme?
My stepfather was a violent alcoholic, so I've known it from my childhood.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Norway some 14 years ago, I needed a job. I had worked within theology and film theory in Iceland. I didn't speak the language so well, so I applied for different jobs, and I started working with people who had drug substance abuse problems. And I just ended up there. I loved it. I felt very much at home. And I've been working there ever since with people who are daily users, who've lost their families, their friends, and all meaning in life, and we try to help them, to meet them, and give them a meaning.
Yeah, and Bradley, you are new in Norway.
Yes.
And you weren't just begin study film, but what is your why did you know about alcoholism in this?
The reason I know about alcoholism is I've got a bittersweet relationship with it. Same as you yourself, my stepfather was an alcoholic when I was growing up. And he was a nice guy. He was a very successful man. He'd done very well for himself. He was a multi-millionaire, but his crux was always alcohol, and this put my mother and my brother and the family as a whole through quite a lot of stress. And then on the flip side, I've had many personal good evenings drinking alcohol myself, and made some lifelong friends through drinking. So varied reasons. But
yeah, and I have a question that since you have contact with alcoholism for different reasons, why do you think that is the factor that starts everything in a way?
Why people become alcoholics?
Yeah, if we can find any reason of it,
Well, there are many many reasons, but the main reason is not the alcohol itself. It's usually what people bring to the alcohol or any substance abuse. Usually people have come from a broken home, they struggled at school, either socially or intellectually. They have some psychological problems. If you look at most people who struggle with substance abuse, it's like 70–80% of them have also psychological or social problems.
Mm.
So it's an escapism. People start to self-medicate, or they try to use it to escape the situation they are in.
Mm. Yeah. When we talk about alcoholism, we are used to have a picture in our minds that people is living in the street, but Martha, the main character who is afraid of Virginia Woolf, she's not coming from this background. Where could be the cause for her to be or to misuse alcohol?
It's very openly written in the script that she has a very strained relationship to her father. I mean, she constantly says that she adores him, and she wants to be his wonderful little girl, but at the same time she hates him in a way. So she wants her husband George to get to take her father, I think. But she also lost her mother when she was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And being an academic housewife in the United States in the 60s, she didn't have anything to do. She doesn't have a child. She's bored, and she's very sad. I mean,
lost, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
She's very lost. Yes. She's I think also she's very radical in her view upon the society and everything, and it's not room for that in her life. She doesn't have a voice. Mm-hmm. She's not able to have a voice, and when she drinks, she certainly has a voice.
Yeah, because it is a lot of studies and theories about why some people it's more likely to be alcoholic, and some studies that talk about if you have parents that are alcoholic, is more chance for you to be. But how's your experience with people you work with in daily basis?
Well, there might be something heretical, like, you know, I mean, there might be some genes that make you more acceptable to become addicted. But I think that's kind of like, you know, addiction to anything. You can often see it, that people who were addicted to alcohol, they stopped using alcohol, they become addicted to something else. They become addicted to gambling, or, you know. So I think it's more of a gene that where you easily become addicted to something. It doesn't have to be the substance. But I think the main reason, like you say, the family, that can also be just that you learn from your family, from your surroundings, how to deal with things, with stress, with, you know, depression and so on. Have a drink. So it doesn't have to be that you inherited it from your parents. You might just have learned it from the culture. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why Irish people drink so much, and it's not because they all have alcoholic genes, but there's a culture there that you kind of go into.
I would certainly agree with that. Like back in the UK, we have quite a big drinking culture. Like we have a thing on a Thursday called Thirsty Thursday, where you get buy 2-for-1 drinks. And for a bank holiday weekend, we have Sundays where like you drink on a Sunday because you've got Monday off, and it's inherited, like 18 to 30 holidays or so. You go to Magaluf or places like this around the world, and the whole crux of the holiday is drinking. So
and in some places, like you said, is the culture and the climate that sometimes makes you to drink more. How about the different things that some governments do or prohibition about alcoholism, do you think that is helping to the cause?
Possibly, but I often wonder, like, if that is the case, then maybe they would go to something else to replace the alcohol, like drugs, for instance.
That's definitely the case. I can see it with Muslims in Norway. A lot of Muslims still struggle with the gambling abuse. So it's like, you know, the thing is that addiction is a very complicated beast. It's usually psychological. You can be addicted to anything almost. You can be addicted to smell, or, you know, to some food, or, you know, name it. So if you want to prohibit things that you can be addicted to, you have to prohibit anything, everything. I mean, sex is off the table. You know, a lot of great things are off the table. So, so the way to deal with addiction and, you know, help people is not to prohibit things, but to understand what's causing it and help people to find their way back. Yeah. But the thing is that when you misuse something that you can be physically addicted to also, and then that complicates the addiction, because it's not just the mental addiction, but your body starts to crave it. So, for example, heroin is a good example where addiction is difficult to break because you become so physically addicted also.
And chocolate?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people
I'm addicted to that.
But also in the play, I feel that Martha is addicted not just to alcohol in a way, but also this sick relationship with her man, because they fight a lot, and it's something that they keep them alive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's passion. It's very passionate. And he's a professor, you know, at the university in history, you know, and he comes home probably very tired and full of all these books he has been reading, and she wants to have some action. Yes, and she pushes him further and further and further, and then he goes back at her, and she loves it. And she says herself that one day she says one day or one night she will go so far that she will break his neck, or just so he will leave. And she does certainly go all the way, but he's there. He saves her in a way, and it's a beautiful love story.
So there, the drama is also some form of a substance that they use to deal with
to cleanse not the air, but to cleanse. It's a cleansing ritual, I think, very much. Yeah,
because about what you said about the physical abuse and or the physical needed and the psychological needed in the alcohol and the relationship with it. You have been, you are coming from another country, and we talked before about how they are dealing with the young people and when they to stop the addiction. Could you say something about it?
Yeah, in Iceland we had a very bad drinking culture. We started with that beer was not allowed, because the idea was that if you get a beer, you will just drink every day constantly. So there was only strong alcohol, and that was a really bad idea. Because as everybody knows, once you start to drink strong alcohol, you easily just get over the line where you know what you're doing. Then we allowed beer in, but still people were drinking a lot. So what Iceland did, they put a lot of money in sports and arts, gave the youths something else to do, a reason to, you know, once you have a reason to live and you have something to, you know, use your day for, drinking reduces. And this is what happened in Iceland. Even though Iceland is part of the countries that have so little sun, because you can see that also, it's sun related. The farther north you go, the more problems you have. Go to Greenland, there is a huge problem. So but even in these places where you have the lack of sun, the bad weather, which causes people to just go in and, you know, they're depressed, they have to try to get through the day, and alcohol is a good crutch there. Even there, if you give them something else, they will rather take that, and that's the way to deal with alcoholism, I think.
It's like self-medication for a lack of happiness, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like a
Yeah.
They
Anybody who
also
has lived in England knows how that you need that.
with the rain.
But
they also drink a lot in Japan. You know, after work, they go directly from work in their suits, and they go with their colleagues.
Sake.
And nothing is allowed on the streets. And then you go into restaurant and and then they go home and go to work the next day. It's like they get drunk in a couple of hours and then it's over.
Isn't Japan also, the problem there is that the social structure, there are so many, I mean, this is the only way you can just relax, because there are so many.
Release from the daily.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it has a very healthy purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I think it's happening nowhere. Like, people need a little bit alcohol to be more socialized. Like something.
Lose your inhibitions and be able to be more relaxed to speak. And make friendships and relationships.
Alcohol can have a good, I mean, you get relaxed, you unwind, you meet other people, you socialize, you go out, you move. You know, there are positive things to it, but it's never. I drink, but it's never. It's not a cure for anything. It can be a crutch, but you're always going to need that crutch. So if you struggle socially, the best way to deal with it is not through alcohol, but it can be a crutch, and it can be a helpful crutch.
Yeah, because I think that happening with alcohol is like you can start in drinking a little bit and it go ups. Like maybe that happened with some actors in the past. Like they drink a little bit before a play and they need it afterwards. How is this nowadays in the actor world? The relationship with alcohol?
I think it's a very different situation than just a few years ago, because the younger generation are more into yoga and fitness things, ecological food, and looking good. But also maybe when you have longer periods without any work, it's easy to get depressed and drink, and then if you have a lot of work, you will just stop drinking and concentrate on your work. So I think you can handle both. You can drink heavily in periods of times and then do healthier things later, don't you think?
Yeah.
And how many percent are become alcoholics? How many people have this gene for addiction? Do you know that?
It's very hard to answer.
Yeah.
And it's a question of how do you define alcoholism? Do you define it by the abuse, how much you drink, or do you define it by the addiction? Because a lot of people abuse it, but they're not addicted to it, but they drink way too much anyway, and they can stop without any problem, but they're misusing it. So that's a question of how you define it.
Yeah.
Because we can follow that's different the Health World Organization that they said, but at the same time it's not completely clear, because then it's a lot more people that is alcoholism than we could say in a way. And something that they see, I don't know how you feel it in your family, but even though we agree or doctors agree in that it's a symptom, usually it's not so easy for families to understand it as a sickness, as other sickness. How do you experience that in your family?
Yes. Like it's like the. Sorry, could you repeat that? I apologize.
When to be alcoholic, it's a symptom, but not in some families they don't accept that in that way. They have
my stepfather. He was a very nice guy, and we felt for him in certain circumstances, but it became quite relentless in the end, and I'm speaking from my own experience, I'd become less sympathetic, where it seemed continuously, I'd try giving him advice, we'd have sad moments where I'd, really feel like I'm connecting with him and getting somewhere, and then all of a sudden he'd let me down. He'd wake up and he'd lie till he was blue in the face, saying he wasn't drunk. And there was once I had quite a scary experience. He swore to my mother he wasn't drunk, and we drove to Pizza Hut, and we drove the whole way there, and he was swerving all over the road, and I was quite petrified, I'm not going to lie, and we got the whole way there, and then as we pulled back to the house, he went, "See, I wasn't drunk," and then he crashed into the garage of the house. And then he went inside, and me and my mother, despite all this shenanigans going on, we was laughing our heads off because he went, "It was because my toenails were so long," and like laughing, and it was quite clearly a problem, and I make light of it and laugh about it because you have to in these situations. But there was many sad times where things would go missing, and he'd become a liability, and like I just said, felt unsafe, where he shouldn't have been driving under any circumstances. And these are things that almost becomes a normality in your families with an alcoholic living in the household. Like he'd hide vodka in the curtains and in the most random places around the house, and it become an ongoing joke. It was quite upsetting, but
It's a very good point. It is a health problem. It's not a legal problem, and this is why Norway and many other countries are moving away from criminalizing substance abuse. And for example, in my hometown here in Norway, they've united the the people who are responsible for psychological help and people who are responsible for substance abuse help. It's now the same department because it's a health issue.
Yeah, but as you say, in the driving case, Norway is really strict with this driving under but in other countries in the European Union, it's not the same case. It's a lot of people that is driving while they drink. And I'm curious about how people see your character, because it's something that we can feel also related, how it's possible to be related with someone that do what your character does, drinking so much and abusing her husband in a way. Where you can find the sympathy for these kind of characters?
Well, it turns. I mean, in the middle of Act 2 or somewhere, towards the end of the play, it's obvious. She cracks down and tells her story about having lost her mother and her relationship to her father, and you can also more and more see and feel that she struggles to
identity.
She really needs to be stopped, and she wants someone to stop her. She wants someone to take care of her and say, "Hey, this is the limit. You can't go further than this." And she pushes and pushes and pushes. And if this husband of hers or anybody else just withdraws, she will come after you, And then he stops. He says, "No, you can't come any further than this." He does the most horrible thing to her. He says that they are lying about having a child. So they have this imagined child, and it is the boy's 21st birthday the day after, and then he kills this child, and it's the worst he can do to her. And then so he stops their lying, and that's the most beautiful thing he can do, because he says stop. So she's sort of taken care of in that moment when he stops her. So she's actually looking for the limit.
But sometimes it's true that for families it's really difficult to do that. just talk, especially when young people,
Mm.
Yeah.
how they.
Because how do you know what they are looking for?
Yeah.
How do you know what they are actually, yes, throwing themselves against? And in this case, with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, George knows her story, and she knows his story, so they can play with this. But if it is a child and a parents or friends, you don't really know what is beneath, what they are actually
What is
talking
the
about,
reason? Their
because they
mask
lie so much. You know, what is
to hide their habit.
So what is behind that? It's all about revealing that, isn't it? To getting to know the.
Yeah, we are coming. It is a really complicated subject and a lot to talk about. We are needing us to the finish. Can you just say something short about what the last message do you want to tell about the theme?
Den magiska oxygen.
So
Yeah, sorry. Can you just tell a little bit? We are narrowing us to the finish of the program. Can you just set a little bit some sentences about your experience? What do you think that we can do to improve this matter, to help?
I think there is a necessity to talk about healthy relationship to alcohol and how to use it and how not to use it. And the most important thing is, of course, that you yes, you want mine? The most important thing is that you see it as a health problem and a psychological problem. This is there's a reason why people misuse. There's a reason why people drink or use other substances. They are escaping from something, and you have to look at the reason for this to help them. You cannot just talk about abstract, oh, they're addicted, Addiction doesn't come just from anywhere. It comes from somewhere. So you have to start there, and I think the world is turning towards that.
Yeah. Do you have something more to say, Hanne?
Maybe we should be more daring in our way of communicating without drinking and any other substances, but just being more brave with how we talk to each other. Not being so, as you say, masked.
Yeah. Like hiding behind it and
Try and be a bit more
open and relaxed.
Yeah. What about you, Bradley?
What I'd say is just if you have someone close to you, like a friend or family, who you think might be struggling with alcohol, just look out for the key signs that they've went from a casual or binge drinker to an alcoholic. Like to see if you can help them, like if they're drinking alone or have withdrawal symptoms, things like that. And everything is if you do it in a respectful way, it's not a problem. Like I drink, I was going to say regularly, but that's not so true. But once a month or something, have a good time with my friends, and treat it with respect and don't misuse it.
Thank you so much for this you dealt with us. Sorry because something happened with the battery. That's happened when you go live. We see next week, so I hope that you are there. So thank you for watching us. Bye bye.